Welcome to the Rising Society podcast. I'm Shane, and
I'm the rejected gentleman, Nico Galliano.
you can follow him on all social media platforms, right? Like Twitter and everything.
That is correct, yes, sir.
And then tonight we are joined from the West Coast by Shannon Braswell.
What's up, man? How y'all doing? I'm so glad to be here tonight.
It's good to have you, man.
It's great to have you tonight.
Thank you. Oh, I need to take off my sunglasses.
Yeah.
That's what y'all do. Okay, I got you.
So tonight we did a lot of talking before we started recording.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the American Empire, but we're going to kind of take an anthropological approach, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of in honor of our resident anthropologist, Shannon.
I appreciate that.
So we're going to be talking about the American Empire. We're going to be talking about the American Empire, what's going on internally inside of the patient, and what's going on externally outside of the patient. So internally, we've had a lot of stuff going on, and unfortunately, on a sad note, there have been some tragedies that have happened over the last week.
Yeah.
One of them being, actually the foremost one being the school shooting in Nashville. So it was carried out by a trans, what would you call her?
Individual. I
Yeah.
don't know what they go by.
Yeah, it was a girl who was under treatment from a physician to become a boy. Greatly confused, lot of mental health issues, a lot of under a lot of medication, taking a lot of hormones. So let's get into it. So it was in Nashville, and she attacked a school. So we're not going to dwell too much on that, but I do think that we can talk about what's going on in America, because there's clearly a lot going on in America.
100%.
And there's a lot of rot going on in America, and I think the only way that we can get rid of the rot is to first and foremost diagnose and understand where we are. So Nico, do you have any thoughts first?
So absolutely. I'm actually and I want to reiterate, this is a tragedy, but I mean, this is what's making news right now, and we can use this as a try to find something out of this tragedy, right? So I think what's never talked about is you have guns are the issue. We never talk about the mental health problems in this country, and in most cases, I mean, if you add all the LBGT, all the letters of the alphabet together, it's like, what is it? Don't quote me. It's like 5% of the country, 4%, right? It's not an overwhelming number. So in most of these cases, when the news goes and they propagate these tragedies, it's always you have the shooter's usually a white Christian male. Now, there's still mental health issues there, but that's never what we talk about. But now we have someone in the transgender community, which is even rare. Usually the crimes like this are committed by men. This is a woman. So now it even leads into a deeper conversation. Was she on any, and I don't know, I'm speculating here, was she on any kind of, testosterone like pills or, hormone blockers? Like what went into that? Because usually men commit these kinds of crime, not women historically throughout the thing. So it leads into that, and now that we've had someone we've had someone of the trans community commit this crime, we can actually talk about this is a mental health issue. This isn't a gun control issue. And she attacked a school, out of all things, where we know that these people aren't going to be defended. It's the same as old folks communities. I find it very interesting they're never attacking police stations where everyone's armed. They're not attacking military bases. They're not attacking stuff like that. So that's I want to get into this. I want to talk about it. Shannon, what do you think about it?
Okay. So my first question is always, what makes somebody who is of a set gender, right, at birth, want to be of the other gender, right? I mean, we've been going over this question of and this is just nationally, like on a cultural level, right? You know, whether there are two or more genders, right? Now, as far as I'm concerned, you know, on a biblical standpoint, from a, you know, Christian perspective, and just from observation, I've only known of two genders, right? I mean, somebody can tell me if I'm wrong, right? but I think they're only two. So the question is what makes a now this was a woman, right?
Correct.
Who wanted to be who feels that she's in the wrong body, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, she's gone through the whole process of transitioning. Am I right? I mean,
Yeah.
Was she fully transitioned?
I think she was in the process of it. I think she was under treatment. Like I think she was taking hormones and things.
I've read a lot of articles I haven't seen, so I can't answer your
Yeah.
question. That's why I don't know if she was on like hormone blockers or testosterone injections, however they do. I don't know.
Okay. So with that, here's my question. Now either she's transitioning and whatever she's doing, because I've heard this from different perspectives. Either what she's doing chemically, right, is causing an imbalance in her body and in her brain, right? You know, chemically and emotionally, right? Or this woman feels the need to do something so hyper masculine, right, that would define her as a male, right? That would signify to other people that she has masculine qualities. I don't see any other way to see that, right? I don't see any other way you can explain this, right? Because she's trying to this you know, now coming from Seattle, I'm always gonna say, you know, this is my opinion, right? This is my opinion. You know, it's to the point to where she wants to what we call differentiate herself from who she is at birth or who she was at birth, to the point to where she goes to the extreme, right? Or whatever's going on, you know, on a medical basis, has turned her brain and her body into something she can't control. And I really believe that. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I had a friend tell me, he said, you know, women are already naturally prone to be exposed to, you know, emotions. You know, they're very emotional beings, right? And when you turn that volume up, you know what I mean? They're going to do some things that's out of their character, or that maybe might not be out of their character on an emotional level, but it's out of their character physically. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this person felt the need to sort of, you know, okay, you said on the anthropological level, right? Okay, I'm
Go for it, Shannon.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it there.
Spit it.
I'm gonna take it there. Okay, so, you know, a lot of times in tribal societies, right? What do men have to do in order to prove their manhood? They gotta pass some kind of test, right? They gotta go through some kind of trial,
Correct.
right? They gotta, you know, kill a lion, right? They gotta be in the wilderness for several days. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what's coming, Might be a bear, might be a lion, right? They might have to put their hand in a glove full of what do they call them fire ants, right? So maybe, just maybe, this is an assumption, right? This woman felt the need to go out on a limb to prove her manhood and say, this is how I'm gonna prove that I'm a man. I got the biggest balls, like the mayor in Chicago used to say. I got the biggest balls in Chicago, right? So she felt the need to say, hey, I got the biggest balls in, where's she from, Tennessee? Nashville?
Yes, correct.
Nashville. Yep.
She said, I got the biggest balls in Nashville. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go out here and, you know, y'all talk about guns. Y'all talk about, you know, going on the hunt. I'm going to do the most damage. You know what I mean? So that's how I see that. Now, I you know, I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. You know.
No, I agree with you. I'll zoom out a little bit,
Yeah.
and take it and drop a little bit of theology.
Okay.
So I was just as you were talking, I was just thinking, you know, the unholy trinity of this fallen, decaying Western order that's unfortunately thriving in America. We have Darwin, who tells us that we were created, or that we accidentally came into being, and we evolved from this primordial ooze that was struck by lightning or something. And Darwin says or something, and basically meaning that our lives are purely accidental, purely incidental, and there really is no material meaning for anything, right? Then we have Sigmund Freud, who tells us that all the meaning in human experience boils down to the pleasure that we derive from instincts, and resonating with that your inner truth is the only truth. You know, if you feel you must do something, you must do it because that's what's right and true for you. And his whole idea is in order for you to be mentally well, you must impose your vision of reality onto the external. So using that line of thinking, it makes perfect sense for you to come up with your own pronoun and demand that other people address you by that pronoun, right? And then the final leg of this trinity I'm going to define is Marx.
Okay.
And at the core, you know, people will talk all about Marxism and communism and stuff, but one thing that I've noticed is nobody can actually define what communism is or what Marxism is in a very succinct way. I'm about to do it.
Okay.
What Marxism says is that the core to human relationships is exploitation. You know, it just says it's exploitation. So if you have a husband and wife, the core of their relationship is exploitation of the husband over the wife, or of the wife of the husband. It's purely exploitation. Now, we contrast that with the Christian Trinity, the actual Trinity, the Trinity that is that brought reality into being, right? That Western society and Western civilization was actually built upon. We have God the Father, who created us intentionally, because He loves us, right? And then we have the Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, who came into reality to redeem it and to perfect it and divinize it, right? Then we have the Holy Spirit, which comes into, which infuses itself into humanity, and calls us to interact with one another with the highest calling of love, right?
Right.
And so I think that we can see these two dramatically different trinities. One which orders reality toward purpose and love, which is the Christian tradition, right? And then the other one, which is the one that's kind of that's thriving in America right now, which leads to violence, which leads to unhappiness, and which leads to a very deep-seated sense of lacking, hollowness, and of not being well.
Yeah.
Physically, mentally, and especially, most importantly, deep inside of your soul, because what we teach kids and what the stories that we tell each other throughout society is that the most important thing is that feeling that you have inside of you, and that's the most important thing, and damn everything else, right? Well, that's inherently evil,
Right.
because the thing is, if we want to talk about gender, we can talk about gender. How do you know that you are a man, or how do you know that you're a woman? How do you know you're a boy? How do you know you're a girl? You have to. It's a physical sign.
Right.
You can look down, or if you want to look at the genetic level, you can look and see if you're XX or XY.
Right.
And people will always try to point to anomalies.
Right.
They'll try to say, oh well, some people like 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1% of the population
Yeah, that's
are
realistic.
are triple X or double Y or whatever.
Right.
Those are the exceptions to the rule, and unfortunately, the people that are born that way, they tend, they're the anomaly, and they usually have to seek some kind of a treatment.
But they're not,
Right?
though. They're not.
Yeah.
Because they still are either male or female.
You're exactly right.
I mean, they're not an exception to the rule.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're absolutely no. Because functionally speaking, they will exist either as a male or female. You're absolutely right.
There's no, I mean, I'm not saying that
Right.
if they have both parts and they still can't reproduce or any of these outliners, they still are either medically a male or a female, no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. I was finished. Go ahead. Do you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. My thing is, okay, so what makes them feel, this is a question for you guys, what makes them feel that they can transcend those boundaries? Is it because they have an all-out sort of, well, I'm going to just say this. They feel like, okay, to hell with Christianity. It doesn't teach me anything that I really know about myself, right? I am who I am because, that's what the Trinity, right? The Darwins, the Marxes, and the Freuds tell me I can be, right? Or is it more of a cultural suite, right? Where they feel like they're caught up in a cultural, say, milieu, right? Where everything is everything. I can be what I want to be, and I'm trying to sort of differentiate myself from everybody else, right, around me, by saying that I was born a woman, but I want to be a man, right? Mm-hmm. And this is going to make me stand out, right? So if I do that, right, that's kind of like, but you know what, man? There's another person I want to add into that, the Trinity, and so maybe we're not talking about Trinity anymore.
It's like a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? I want to add Nietzsche.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a perfect one.
Okay, because and I'm not trying to denigrate Nietzsche, right? He had his problems, right, and his issues and stuff like that, but he had this mentality, what he called the Ubermensch, right? The superhero, right? So the superhero is willing to sacrifice himself or kind of go out on a limb to be like just super different, right? Like, I'm willing to save humanity by being totally different, right? Do you guys think that people who want to be other than what they were born is sort of an attempt to like save humanity from, you know, the Christian, you know, the theology that we all came up with, whether you know, this is the thing about the West, man, that I kind of, you know, I have a problem with, right? Because whether you were born a Christian or not, right, you live in a Christian country. You live in the West, right? And the West is a Christian nation. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. Yeah. 100%.
And so, yeah, right? And so there seems to be, to me, a mentality that, well, Christianity does not allow me to be the superhero, right? Christianity doesn't allow me to be the individual that saves humanity, right? You know, I mean, I think all this goes back to, say, sort of the boomer age, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to knock the boomers. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? There's some great boomers out there.
They brought us some pretty good music,
right?
You know?
You know what I'm saying? And
it's a fact.
you know, you know, but I do think, you know, a lot of it stems from this mentality that I want to be my own person. You know what I'm saying? I want to be an individual, right? And you know, I know how to get mankind out of the continuous wars, right? I know how to get mankind out of its violent streak. So if I be different, right? If I'm a man and I want to be a woman, I'm showing other men how to kind of diffuse their hypermasculinity, right? If I'm a woman, I'm showing women how to tame their femininity. You know what I'm saying? How to kind of get up in the men's circle. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? To be amongst the men and be rational, right? So I guess my thing is that what is the real reason why a lot of these people want to be something other than what they were born as?
So, I want to hit something real quick because you guys are spitting off a lot and my memory's not great. Yeah. Okay. So I want to hit this real quick. So you said a couple interesting things that I want to. So, for instance, when man's his own end, right? When there's no higher power beyond yourself, right? So everything you do, that people argue, can you truly have a moral compass if there's nothing higher than yourself, if you're your own end? And I don't want to get into that debate. What my thing is if it's all about self-glorification, or even if say you are past that without some kind of structure, moral compass, if you will. Let's say that it does go to your family, your friends, your closest circle, your sphere of influence that you do. If you're your own end, I find this very interesting, then the things that you do, you could feel like, what's my purpose? And you were kind of getting into that. So, and I don't know this young lady, young man, I'm not sure what we're saying. I don't know. I don't know this trans person. But when you are your own end, she could have very felt that, just on one of your points, this is how I push my movement further. Because, and I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm spitballing here. That the media, we all know, we can all agree, left, right, in between, don't care. We can all agree that the media exploits tragedies. And look, we're talking about this, for Christ's sake. So if people talk about something, right, and tragedy sells, if she knows that this is a way to push her movement further, right? The trans movement, LGBTQ community, whether you agree with it or not, if she knew that, she could be a martyr.
Yeah.
She could be that Jesus Christ figure
Right.
of the salvation of, trans people. And like I said, I'm not saying that's what happened, but that is a possibility. And another thing I wanted to press on, if this person was, let's say this is a mental problem in the country, correct? If this person was mentally ill when they went and they committed this tragedy, it leads you, one, to assume, where was I going with that? Wow, maybe I've had too much bourbon. No. It leads
Impossible.
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 Right. Yeah, glass number
And
5.
I'll drink to that.
No, so I wanted to go that route, and I also wanted to go, if it is a mental problem that's going on in this country with the self-identity of an individual, not only is there martyrism that can come into there to try to push that further,
Right.
to be that Jesus figure. I don't know where I was going on the mental health problem. We're going to have to come back to me because I wanted to say it was on your point,
Yeah.
and I went on that angle.
Yeah.
And Shane, what's your thoughts on that real quick? Why I'm thinking of that?
Well, it actually kind of got me thinking about you
Yeah.
being an anthropologist.
Yeah.
Knowing so much about Rene Girard.
Yeah.
Nico, you talking about her making herself into a martyr, unfortunately and tragically, but that's what tends to happen with people that are revolutionaries.
Right.
People that are at war with reality.
Right.
And I was wondering actually if you could comment on that, on there's a whole phenomena that they say of copycats, of copycat crimes and things. Could you kind of talk about mimetic theory? Could you could you kind of like summarize it, and then maybe talk about how that relates to this situation and how it would obviously relate to most every situation.
Okay. So there's this brother, and he's been gone for a while. His name is Rene Girard, right? And he was a French American polymath, really. He was trained as a historian, right? I mean, that's what he went to school to study, right? Was history, and to become what they call in France, I guess they call it an archivalist, right? So more like a librarian, right? But he didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? He thought that was like just humdrum. Like, man, I'm not about to sit here and just be putting up books all day. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to make that my life. You know what I'm saying? So he came here to the United States, and he started teaching French literature. I want to say he began somewhere in New York, right? In Buffalo, right? Then he moved to a couple of colleges, what we would consider, maybe about 10 years ago. You can't say this now. To some prestigious colleges like Johns Hopkins and Stanford, stuff like that. Moved around a lot, right? And towards the middle of his career, he had this sort of awakening about mimesis, right? Now, mimesis is something that, it has been kind of observed by a lot of different people, all the way back to Aristotle. He said man is the most imitative of all creatures. You know what I'm saying? We imitate the most, right? But see, Girard, what he was able to understand is that not only do we imitate as far as our appetite, and all of that, but we imitate each other's desires, right? we don't know what we want as individuals.
Fact.
Right? You know what I mean? We come into this world sort of like, you know, I mean, I don't want to say it's a clean slate or anything like that, right? But when we get to a certain stage in our life, you know, we don't know what we want. And we start to pick up what other people tell us is desirable, right? So we say, well, hey man, you know, you want a good career. Well, you got to do this thing, right? So when I was coming up in school, everybody was in the business, right? Everybody wanted to go to business school. That was the thing, right? And say before that, it used to be, you know, everybody wanted to be an engineer. You know what I'm saying? You wanted, you know, computer engineering. You know what I'm saying? You wanted to make that career to where you make it to Japan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they had the 80s, 90s,
Right.
and then entrepreneurship became cool. Yeah,
Exactly, right? And so his whole thing was humans desire what other people basically pinpoint as desirable. You know what I'm saying? And so we follow after that, right? So to make a long story short, I think connecting this whole thing with the transgender thing, you know what I'm saying, and men wanting to be women and vice versa, what it really boils down to is, I think we got what we call, and some, you know, I didn't what do you call it? I didn't term this word or term this, you know, I didn't you know.
You didn't coin this.
Yeah, I didn't coin this. I didn't coin this word, this term, right? Mimetic contagion, right? Where,
That's interesting.
you know, we sort of, you know, the mimetic craze right now is to be other than what you are, right? So you're born a man, you want to be a woman. You're born a woman, you want to be a man, right? That's sort of like mimetic contagion. And you know what? And here's something else. Here's something. The reason why I believe that to be true is because we're teaching children to believe that's desirable, right? You look at what was the basketball player's name who played for Miami Heat, and now his son believes he's a girl.
Oh, I'm
You know what
not
I'm talking
aware of this. No, I missed
Okay.
this.
Okay, you know, he believes the boy, you know, and this ain't just him, right? This is a whole bunch of people, stars and stuff, and that's another reason, you know, that this is some mimetic contagion, because you got famous figures who are promoting this with their children, right? They're telling their children it's okay if you want to be a girl, right? It's okay if you want to be a boy. Look at Brad Pitt's what is it, son, who thinks he's a girl.
It was his daughter.
His daughter, okay.
His daughter, and now, and she's actually not to interrupt you. I'm just playing
No,
on.
yeah.
So it was his daughter, and I believe we might get ridiculed on this. I think Shiloh was the name, something like that.
Yeah.
I only know this because
Yeah.
I visit with my mom. She's a huge gossip. She reads all that stuff.
Right.
For years.
Yeah.
They said, just let her do what she wants.
Right.
Right? They didn't do any sex change, any hormone blockers. Just like,
Right.
she likes to play with boy toys because she
Right.
has all brothers.
Right.
She likes to dress like a boy. Brad Pitt and Angelina were actually very like, just let her do what she wants. She's a girl. She stayed a girl.
Right.
And now she doesn't do it at all, which that's the danger of letting these children transition before the age of 18, a consensual
Right.
adult. She's a girl now, and she's very happy that she did not go through with this.
Okay.
Imagine if she did.
Right.
And now she's 16
Right.
with no breast
Right.
and testicles.
Right.
And she's like, wait, I am a girl. Where do you go from there? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I just
no.
knew the story because
Yeah.
I hear the what do you call them? The gossip rags.
Yeah.
At the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the funny thing is that I know you guys know who Matt Walsh is, right? He did that documentary, "What Is a Woman?" or something.
Yeah,
like
that was a really good documentary.
Great documentary. Yeah.
yeah. And he sat before what was it? I think it was like the Congress in Tennessee or something like that. Every state has like their own little like
the state house or
state house,
state senate, something.
Right. And they were questioning him about what's your stats on like how do you know that basically men and boys and girls this is wrong to do for boys and girls and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? And they were basically telling him how can you argue with the stats on the fact that young men and women commit higher rates of suicide when they can't transition, right? Mm-hmm. And so his argument, and I'm kind of shortening it. His whole thing was, well, first of all, studies have never been done on that because we haven't had this higher rate of young men and women who want to transition. So how can we? Yeah.
That leads to an interesting point, Shane. I want you to jump in right here.
Yeah.
I don't want to the term you just used. Can you say it one more time for me?
Yeah. So he said, how can we tell that we have a high suicide rate of young men and young women who commit suicide?
The term on where people parrot or they mimic influence.
Mimesis or imitation.
Okay.
Yeah, you said
mimetic theory.
Mimetic contagion?
That's it.
Okay.
Mimetic contagion.
Okay.
So I find that very interesting. I want to go on that. I want to run with that. Mm-hmm. What I can't wrap my head around is before the 80s, right? And we're talking mid to late 80s, right? And there's a lot of data out there on there. I don't want to misquote. People can look it up or comment section, and I'll drop some links. Mm-hmm. Before the mid 80s, mm-hmm. overwhelmingly, we're talking 90+% of trans people were men wanting to be women. It was never the other way around, all the way to we're talking the Romans and before.
Right.
It was always men that wanted to be women.
Right.
Women never wanted to be men. Mm-hmm. This is very new in society, and I know there's a lot of theories on why this is. I find it very interesting that the rate of trans people, right? And I know people are going to have a lot of theories on this, but the rate of trans people is almost like you said, they're mimicking, because it's growing at such an astronomical rate that the percentage of the population, but then those people become a certain age, just we're talking Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, and you notice that number dropping off.
Right.
Well, they just decided that they felt like a man or they felt like a woman, but they're not anymore. They avert back to their original sex. I find that very interesting. And the people that do stick with it, why is there such a rise in women that want to be men? And I think that goes down to the structure of gender roles in society. Women don't get paid the same. Western women have become very masculine. Mm-hmm. And there is a such thing. I hate that we don't ever talk about it. It's either black or white. There is a such thing as feminine men and masculine women. That doesn't make them a man or a woman.
Right.
It's just a masculine woman and a very feminine man.
Right.
Regardless of sexual preference, that does exist. Mm-hmm. So why is there such an increase? And I got this from your term that you said. Why is there such an increase of women wanting to imitate men in modern society where that never existed all the way to the 1980s. Right. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying at the levels that it's happening now. Yeah. And you cannot tell me it's because we are so progressive now in 2023 that these people are just coming out of the shadows. I don't believe it. That's bullshit. A lot of these kids are impressionable, just like we were. Think about it. I can't tell you the last time I did stuff that I did in middle school or high school because it was popular.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I went against some of my core foundational beliefs when I was in middle school because it wasn't cool. It was cooler to do this. But then they do, in droves, revert back. And the people that don't, and I remember what I was going to say earlier with you real quick, and then I'm going to let you go here. I remember what I was going to say about the mental health problems. Why is it? And you said there wasn't studies done on this. I have read a couple, but you're right. They're small, and they don't have the sample size is so minute that this might as well be opinion. And I'll say that right here. But it is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Why is it that the suicide rate in trans people, percentage-wise, is so high? And people will theorize that, it's because they're not accepted, they're being picked on, bullied, they feel, their depression levels. But the suicide rate is higher in the people that actually go, percentage-wise, because most of them don't, is actually higher in the people that start the transition process. So if you're getting closer to your end goal on what you truly believe you are, why would the suicide rate spike so much compared to the people that still believe what you believe in and haven't done it? And their suicide rates are higher than what I don't want to say normal people, than people that are comfortable in the gender they were born with. Right. These are things that we need to talk about, no matter what side you're on. They need to be mentioned. Yeah. It's worth a conversation. Right. And I've taken up enough time. So what do you got there?
Well, the only thing I was going to say is when you think about Shannon, thank you for that breakdown.
Oh, no.
Yeah, absolutely,
that was,
brother.
yes.
I did mean to. I wanted to shine light on that.
So I actually have a question for you. I've got a couple of things I want to say down the road at some point, but I've got some questions for you. So I think it is so interesting that Rene Girard, if you want to be countercultural, and if you want to truly go against the grain, I mean, what it sounds like Rene Girard is saying is, if you want to figure out what you truly desire, or if you want to find out what your life's purpose or meaning is, don't look inside. Don't mine inside of your mind or your ego or your soul and try to dig in there and try to figure out who you are in your depths. He would say to go and look outside, right?
Right.
Now, so and I would say that was probably the norm in the West prior to the Enlightenment, right? Now, okay, and I think all three of us are pretty well read. Yeah. When you look at the East, and I'm not talking about like Orthodox or anything. I'm talking about like Hindus and Buddhists and Confucians and things like that.
Right.
And this is what my question is.
Okay.
It seems like in Eastern philosophies and religions, they oftentimes tell you look inside to find your meaning.
Right.
And it's also very interesting to note, and you may agree or disagree with me on this, and that's actually what I want to ask you is, it seems like in the West, where you've historically been told, especially in the aftermath of the Lord Jesus Christ coming, when you're told to look outside to find your desires and meaning, we have a society that tends to be a little bit more liberty oriented, right. Where you can kind of, if you have the ability, you can go and kind of choose your own path for your life. Right. You can choose what you want to do with your time in exchange for money and things. Right. In the medieval period, you might be able to, you might have a little bit of mobility socially. Right. In the East, there was virtually no social mobility. Right. The caste system in India would be an example I would point to. Okay. The Confucian strata in China, which pretty much you were locked into whatever strata you were born into. If you were born a royal, you were a royal. If you were born a peasant, you were going to die a peasant. Right. So, do you think that the West, in rejecting that orientation to looking outside, and adopting this very, very Eastern philosophy of looking inside, do you think that's the reason that our strata outside is becoming more fixed. I'll give you an example. Like economically, Americans are more stratified now than they've ever been.
Right.
It used to be if you were born poor in America, you had the greatest shot in the entire world of dying middle class.
Right.
You still have a really good shot,
Yeah.
but it's nowhere near what it was before.
Right.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
I do. Well, I think I do.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sure that you do.
Yeah.
No one does, so you can just say anything.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take a shot at this. So it is true that with Eastern traditions, there is a much more. There's much more of a fixation on internalizing, right, or drawing inwards, or drawing into the self, right? And one reason, the only reason why I know this, and I'm gonna tell you guys this, I never told anybody this, man. So this, y'all getting a highlight tonight.
Oh, behind the scenes.
I'm privileged.
Yeah.
My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was what they call Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist, right?
Oh wow.
And that's a form of Japanese Buddhism, right? These are the guys you see that a lot of times they chant the mantra from what they call the Diamond Sutra, or not the Diamond Sutra, the Lotus Sutra, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, right? I know you probably heard of that.
I'm actually familiar with this.
Okay, yeah.
So I have never heard of it.
I know a lot of martial artists.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, now that school of Buddhism is what they call, Mahayana Buddhism. Now, Mahayana Buddhism came, centuries after the Buddha. You know what I'm saying? But there was an older form, which what they call Theravada Buddhism, right? Which taught that, basically, you're the only person as an individual who can bring salvation to yourself, right, and reach nirvana, right? Mm-hmm. So you basically have to almost withdraw from the world, right? You have to kind of escape worldly desires, right? And the thing about Eastern religions is that yes, it is fixed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in terms of Buddhism, I think if you want to say something about Eastern religions, that's probably the best you were going to get up until Christianity, mm-hmm. right?
I actually concur with that statement.
Yeah, the Buddha.
You're not going to hear an argument here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Buddha was the best you could get, pre-Christian, right? He taught nonviolence, right? He taught meditation, thinking about the self and stuff like that. But, it went to the point of, I don't want to say the extreme, which is sort of like a Gnosticism, where you sort of, don't eat anything, you're just waiting to die, whatever. But there was this attitude that the world is an illusion. Mm-hmm. The world is not, it's the way you perceive the world, right? It's the way you perceive your suffering, right? And it's not real, right? So you have to basically kind of reprogram yourself, right, to withdraw from that desire, right? Now, the thing about it is that, the reason why that didn't bowl with me so well when I was young, even though my grandfather came from a Buddhist, was developing an understanding of the Buddhist religion through Mahayana Buddhism. Now the thing about it is Mahayana Buddhism teaches salvation to the world, right? It teaches that all human beings need salvation, right? And that the Buddha came, his real name was Siddhartha Gautama, right?
He was a prince.
He was a prince, right? And he's from Nepal, right? So, I don't want people to think I don't know what I'm talking about. I got this, But,
And real quick, he was a prince, but didn't he basically threw himself on the street into poverty,
Right.
lived that life a couple years and realized, in just simple terms, I'll be the people.
Yeah.
He in simple terms, he's like, oh, this isn't doing shit.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the, he threw himself on the streets and I'm going to live as basically, destitute, all this stuff.
Right.
And didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just trying to, because I don't know if a lot of people know this stuff.
Well, in fact, I think there was I think the story goes that there was a prophecy that he was either going to be a great king,
Yep.
or he was going to be a great priest, a great religious man.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
And his father wanted him to be a great king.
Yep.
And acquire other kingdoms for his kingdom in Nepal and everything.
But he realized
And-
quickly that starving and being poor, it wasn't.
Well, in fact, I think the story goes that he had lived a sheltered life. He got everything he wanted.
Very sheltered.
He lived a life of
Hand-fed
pleasure.
everything. Yes.
And what ended up happening was, I think he went on a parade or something.
Yes.
And he saw a sick man, and he said, "What is that?"
Yes.
He saw he saw a dying man,
Yes.
and he said, "What is that, and why is that?"
Yes.
And these things troubled him because he had never seen these things before.
That's right.
Right?
That's
And I think I'm missing a couple.
No, yeah. You got
But
it.
he ended up he ended up devoting his life
Yep.
to trying to pursue a path to alleviate humanity from those sufferings.
Right.
Right?
But he did realize the extreme in the other way wasn't doing anything either.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Because he became that person.
Yeah,
he
he-
became the lowest of the low
Yeah.
to the point of starvation and begging and scraps. And he realized after he did it, I don't want to. You know more than me on this.
No, so basically, I think the story goes, he had joined a group of like savants or sages, these gurus, right, that were in India, who were basically
Vaders, I think, right? Or
well, I mean, they were
in the Hindu,
yeah, I mean, they were
very holy men,
Yeah.
like traveling
yeah, yeah.
preachers.
Yep.
In the but Eastern version.
Yeah.
Right?
He just says
like Far
things. You
East.
don't have to agree
No,
with
no,
him.
no. No.
He just yeah.
He's on
It might be
point.
the Elijah Craig too.
He's on point.
Impossible.
He's on point. But I so the thing is that, see, India at that time was heavily, influenced by a hierarchical system, right? What we call, I guess today, Brahmanism, right? Yeah. And so, the Brahmins are the priestly class, right? Now, if you know anything about Hinduism, there's a story about a god, and that god's name is Prajapati, right? Now, Prajapati is the god who was basically dismembered, and his body parts signify the classes of people that you were in, at the time. So you were either part of the Brahmins, who they were the head, right, of Prajapati, right, or you were part of the warrior and the princely class. They were the upper body and the arms.
Okay.
So each body part had a definition.
Yeah.
So the Brahmins were were they the intellectual thinkers?
Yes.
Was there okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
they were the holy men. They were the gurus. They were the savants. You know what I'm saying? They were the ones that, basically, you wanted to be a part of. And if you didn't want to be a part of them, you wanted to be a prince or a warrior, class, right?
This makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
I've never heard this before.
Yeah,
Shane.
yeah. This
Ever.
is new to me. I'm uneducated on this. Yeah.
Okay. And then you had the merchant class, right? And then below that you had, the untouchables, right? And I'm sure you guys have heard the untouchables.
Yeah,
These are the people that basically,
I know about them because of Indiana Jones
Right,
and the Temple of
okay.
Doom.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good source. We
Right.
should
Yeah.
put that in the comments
Well,
so
it's
people can.
It's better than Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm loving this. Man. I'm loving this. But yeah, so I mean, basically, this was the order in which you were born into one of them classes. You know what I'm saying? And so the Buddha, he was part of the princely class. You know what I'm saying? There are we getting deep. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this out. There are two groups. Within India. There's the solar clan, and there's the lunar clan, right? And the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was part of the solar clan, right? And he was part of that princely class that lived in Nepal, right? And you're right. His father tried to shelter him from the real world, right? Because he heard about that prophecy. You know what I'm saying? That this man is either going to become a great teacher or he's going to become a great king, right? And so what happened is that once he realized, once he started asking all these questions, his ignorance started to decrease, because he saw the sick, he saw the leopards, right? He saw death, right? And see, with the dying, in India, what they would do is, they do cremation, right? And the upper classes could not be around the untouchables and the dead bodies. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you talk about heaps of bodies being burned, and their ashes being thrown into the Indus River. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He couldn't be around any of that, right? Because it was basically, impurity, right? But once he got out of his, and keep in mind, he was married, and he did have a child.
Is this before he went into poverty and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He had a son, and he had a wife. You know what I'm saying? But he left him in pursuit of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? So, once he left, he started going on these journeys, and he met a couple of sort of like ascetics, people that, want to withdraw from the world. And this is where I get back to my point of
People that were starving themselves. And,
yeah.
And mortifying their bodies, like punish, like
right.
Probably in India, laying on like a mattress of nails, and stuff like that.
I mean, I'm sure we can imagine all type of things, right? So
well, the three of us are Catholics, so
right,
so we can imagine all kinds of mortification of the
right,
flesh.
And so he saw these guys, and he joined them, right? But then he realized, like, man, this is not this ain't getting me no closer to the knowledge that I wanted to have, right? So he went down to bathe in the river, and he saw this girl, right? Now, and I might be getting the story a little mixed up, but I think he saw a girl, and she had this this instrument, and he saw her plucking on the instrument, and he said, whenever she would tighten it, the sound would the pitch would go up, and it would get tighter. Mm-hmm. Whenever she would loosen it, the sound would dull, and get lower, right? So then he understood that, okay, there's what you call a middle way.
Yes.
Right? If I turn it up too high, the string will break and snap, right? If I dull it and loosen it too much, you won't get no sound, right? So there's got to be a middle way, right? So then he left those ascetics, and they were like, man, you're a fool, you don't know what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? So then he went to sit under this tree, and I want to say is called the Bodhisattva tree.
And a Bodhi tree.
Yeah, Bodhi
tree. For short, right? Like
Right. The Bodhi tree, right? So he sat under that tree and he was meditating. You know what I'm saying? And then he started getting all these emotions creeping up and everything. You know what I'm saying? And he sat there and he noticed that, every time he would meditate, these things would come at him like, there was a god that came to him who had these like 4 daughters who tried to entice him with lust, you know what I'm saying, and everything. And then he deflected that. And then the god tried to scare him with like war, you know what I'm saying, in this great army, and they were shooting arrows at him. And he deflected that, right? And so he realized that it's about really the being able to control your mind and your state of mind, right? And he understood that, there's more that goes into this, right? Because there's what they call I think it's called the 5-fold path, right? Mm-hmm. Where a person sort of recognizes something is wrong with them, right? Then they try to figure out what that is, right? And they go through this state of meditation where they try to, they overcome that, and they realize that everything is sort of an illusion, right? Then they can pass on to the point of like reaching nirvana, right? They can break away from their desires. But
the
now,
enlightenment,
right? They can reach enlightenment. But see, here's the crux, And while I do respect Buddhism, I really do, because I think it is.
So do I.
Yeah, I think it is. It is very much a respectable religion. And some people might call it a way of life or philosophy, right? The thing that I guess my crux with that is that, again, it teaches you to withdraw from the world, right? Whereas when you talk about Christianity, it teaches you to not so much as desire the things of the world, not to so much as imitate the world, right? You're not feeding into the desires of the flesh, right? The carnalities, right? But you want the positive things in the world in order to change it. So you engage with the world. You know what I'm saying? You can't flee the world entirely, but you have to understand you're not of the world, right? I'm not of the world, but I'm gonna change the world. So I have to engage with people, right? That's what Christ did, right? He said, I didn't come to save the those who are already, saved or purified. I came to save the lost. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And through that, I think that shows a much more of a concern for mankind, right? Because you want to save people who don't know where to go, mm-hmm. right? And they're in a state of confusion, right? Yeah.
And I'm going to serve this to you because then you got a lot. But I know you're more on the side of Shannon in this, and I'm actually on the opposite side. So for someone who I'm
guessing we're all probably on the same side.
No. I'm waiting for my excommunication letter any day now, actually. So as someone...
Oh, from Pope Francis?
So you actually nailed it on the head. Buddhism, I would say from my viewpoint, mm-hmm. Buddhism, when you take it as a philosophy, mm-hmm. and you said that, right? Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people, and you nailed it on the head. I do think that the West has become very Eastern, mm-hmm. but they've misinterpreted it.
Yeah,
and they've taken it to an extreme.
Yeah. We don't have the stratification
Exactly.
in our culture and society to handle it, right?
So it was almost like Atlas, but it crushed you.
Yeah.
Because you took this Eastern philosophy, and they don't even know they're doing it. Modern people, kids that are 17 doing this stuff, they don't even know they're embracing
Right.
the Eastern philosophy in extremism.
Right.
But when you take Eastern philosophy, because, like I said, I'm around a lot of martial artists. I'm a piss poor martial artist, but I have dabbled in it. But when you take the philosophy of Buddhism and you implement it, I find that if you have an end goal beyond yourself, and you nailed this on the head, beautifully said, when you have an end goal and that is God, Jesus Christ, the Trinity, and you have something above man, when you take the philosophy of Buddhism and you apply it to your life, I do think it's very hard to pour from an empty glass. So you can't detach yourself from the world, but I do believe the first place you should always look is inward on yourself. Am I being the example that I want to set for society? Am I contradicting myself?
Yeah.
Am I living by my own moral compass? Because it's very easy to say things.
Yes.
I can say nice sounding shit all day long.
Yep.
I can tell people how they should live. And this is a lot of young people, I would say, problem, especially since I would say the 50s, 60s, late 50s.
Yeah.
I would say this is a problem. A lot of people's problem with Christianity is Christians are very good at saying things and then not doing them.
Yes.
Right.
And with that, when you apply Buddhism with my Catholic faith, and I found it I've never had a problem with it. And like I said, I'm waiting just to get in the mailbox. You're no longer allowed in. And
I doubt Pope Francis is going to send you that
can't go
letter.
to Mass, can't take communion. I'm just waiting for it.
Can we pause so I can hit the bathroom?
Absolutely. Let's
Yes.
pause right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.